As a golf coach, I would strongly suggest that when you set up to the golf ball, you place the club head behind the ball and you make sure that the centre of the club face is in line with the golf ball. However, what I think is often quite interesting is that that's not always what the pros do. We tend to see a little bit of a variety. Some pros start in the centre, of course. Some pros start more towards the toe. And I suppose ultimately what's important is where the club is delivered at the point of impact. And because we have all these different wrist positions and all these different sort of arm positions, the pro will naturally find where they strike the ball best upon the point of impact. There's a little bit of a lesson there ourselves. However, what's more important, I think, for most amateur golfers is to understand getting enough of a wrist hinge in the backswing. Because if you can get this wrist hinge here and you can hold on to this wrist hinge coming into here, this will help you bring the club nicely down on plane. Also, if you retain an element of this wrist hinge, you'll be able to get the hands leading in the impact position. And one of the drills that I always have a lot of success with is getting a golfer to start with the club head behind the ball, but then instead of swinging from this position, I ask them to do a little bit of a wrist hinge, which is the back of my right wrist moving like so that the hands stay in the same location, but the club head now starts opposite the trail foot. And what this does is this introduces the wrist hinge. From here, you can now focus on turning, lifting your arms, and you're going to get the club perfectly on plane. So if you're somebody who struggles a little bit with your wrist move, this is a really simple way for you to start practicing getting set up. Instead of the club being behind the ball, start it this way, hit from there. And the point that I'm trying to say is if that brings you fantastic results, then we see lots of examples of some of the great golfers who do things that maybe weren't quite conventional. We see some pros hover the club with the driver. We see some pros start with the driver head more behind the ball. We see some pros start with the ball more towards the toe, and that's why you've got to figure out what works well for you. See you soon.